Okay, great. Let's not waste any more time and introduce my panellists. So I'm joined today on the stage by Dr. Ali Kaafarani from PQ Shield, Anne Dunkin, who's the Chief Information Officer at the US Department of Energy, and on the end, Michael Osborne from IBM Quantum Safe. Welcome to my guests here, and we're joined on Zoom by Dr. Lily Chen from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So thank you all. We're here to discuss post-quantum security. For many people, they're only just getting their heads around quantum, so the idea that we're adding a post to it is going to another level. So I want to start off by asking Lily from NIST. We're now on the verge of publishing the first post-quantum cryptography standards. What does that really mean? Give us a sort of sense of the process that's been involved with that and what it's going to mean to the people that are sat here today.
Okay, thank you. So first, let me explain what does that mean by post-quantum cryptography. That is cryptography which can resist quantum attack. So today, public key cryptography like RSA and Diffie-Hellman elliptic curve cryptography has been well deployed. They are used for key establishment in internet protocols. The digital signatures are used for authentication and code signing. But they are vulnerable to quantum attacks. That's bad news by short algorithm. That is why we need to standardize new algorithms which can resist quantum attacks. Cryptographers have been actively looking for such a category of cryptography schemes to replace RSA, Diffie-Hellman, elliptic curve cryptography in the last decade. So this category we call post-quantum cryptography or quantum-resistant cryptography. So I hope I explained PQC. Then we can go to the next question, probably.
So in terms of the NIST winners, there's this competition, we've got winners, but will there also be kind of other solutions that sort of sit alongside that? And if there is, how will we manage that? I mean, is this going to be just a one solution fits all or not?
Well, when we talk about quantum resistance, we are looking for the hard problems, which are hard for both classical computers and also for quantum computers. For example, RSA is based on the integer factorization problem. It's hard for classical computers, but not hard for quantum computers. That is the problem. So we have multiple categories of these hard problems, hard for both categories. For example, like a lattice-based cryptography, code-based cryptography, and multivariate, hash-based signatures, and elliptic curve Asagi-based. So there are many categories. So one NIST started to call for proposals 8 years ago. We received 82 submissions in 2017. That's a lot, and from different categories. During the 6 years, we narrowed down 3 times, and based on the public crypto analysis and the evaluation. And then we, in each of the narrow down, NIST write a report. And also to this report tell why we selected some to move forward, why some are not. So in 2022, we selected the first set of the algorithms. Altogether, 4 algorithms, 1 for key establishment and 3 for digital signatures. So that's the procedure I summarized in a very short, kind of few sentences. But remember, this is 8 years and effort, and it's a community effort, I would say, and also it's a kind of effort to explore a very new area. So I hope I answered the question.
Anybody on the panel want to add to that? So the two questions so far are, just explaining what these new standards will mean for people that are sat here today, and also whether they are going to be standalones or whether we're going to see other sort of solutions sitting alongside them.
Yeah, I can start. So as Lily beautifully actually explained it, and I guess it's time to, always good time to thank NIST for the great effort in standardizing alternatives to RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, which are the mainstream algorithms that we use nowadays in every communication, every device to secure our data, to authenticate ourselves, etc. So they've been running this process since 2017, and now we have 4 algorithms that were chosen by NIST. We have different algorithms at different stages, so we still have around 4 algorithms that are being scrutinized by NIST and the community to standardize further algorithms, in particular key encapsulation methods. And there is an additional digital signature competition now, or an additional line to standardize additional digital signatures. This started in June last year. So there will be more algorithms. To answer that question, there will be more algorithms to be standardized as a package of, or suite of cryptography algorithms that are believed to be quantum resistant. And this is for multiple reasons. One is to diversify the mathematics as much as we can, because cryptography is a risk mitigation mechanism. That's what it is. We don't have perfectly secure algorithms that are in use nowadays, and I don't expect to have any perfect algorithms, perfectly secure algorithms deployed at any point in time in the near future, because there is a trade-off between feasibility, between usability, between practical solutions and security. And therefore, we have to find a solution in the middle that is difficult enough for attackers to break and also easy enough to use for us so that we can actually use it to encrypt messages and decrypt messages, right? So there will be more algorithms from NIST themselves, and again, those algorithms that are selected by NIST will flow down into different standardization bodies for the telecom standards, for the financial sector standards, for the other bodies there, IETF, etc. And therefore, there will be some subsets of those algorithms that are suitable for different sectors that will be standardized. But I don't see other algorithms outside NIST, outside the algorithms run by NIST, that will be actually widely used in at least in the Western side of the world, where we rely heavily on the US government and European governments for cryptography standards.
And just to move the discussion on a bit, Michael, you've talked about businesses and what businesses need to do. What should they be thinking about right now? Because many of them, these concepts will be completely new to them and completely terrifying in some degree. So what would your advice be as to what businesses should be doing right now?
So I don't know how many of you understood all the acronyms flying around mathematics this morning, but there's the aspect of post-quantum algorithms, the technology you need to use, but enterprises need to think about what it takes to be safe in the quantum era. And that's more than just the algorithms. It's essentially, how do you find and replace all the algorithms that you have? And one of the challenges, for example, that we see is that the people who understand cryptography I don't know if you know the IT crowd. This is the group of people that sit in the basement of an organization that nobody talks to. So it's really, how do you start raising awareness to the people that can really start, let's say, making the decisions that makes this journey an easy journey. And it's, I think, raising awareness at the business level in organizations, such that we don't end up with a Y2K scenario where everything's done at the last minute at a huge cost, but that we can start to sort of align the things we need to be doing with aspects of how to get to this quantum safe state. So a lot of it is very much about awareness right now.
Now, Anne, presumably the Department of Energy in the US is going to be thinking about this very much at the moment. Critical infrastructure is obviously incredibly important to protect. So explain what you're thinking about right now in terms of post-quantum security.
Yeah, and I'll point out that my office is on the top floor of the building. We don't keep our IT folks in the basement. So we keep the spooks in the basement. The folks who have to sit in those windowless rooms and talk about secure things. So yeah, DOE, I mean, the reality is, so Y2K is an analogy actually that my staff has used as well. The problem with the Y2K analogy is that it's too late already, in the sense that, we look at our data and we say there's a whole bunch of data that people have already exfiltrated and maybe sitting on right now that's encrypted that they will be able to decrypt in the future. So part of the goal is to stop the bleeding right away. So we're looking at Department of Energy, what is the full inventory of all the systems that we have? What are the cryptography methods used for those? Which are the most critical systems in terms of the data and then that we want to secure as quickly as possible so that we can protect that data. When we look at critical infrastructure, one of the advantages of critical infrastructure is that there's not a lot of data that passes in the operation of critical infrastructure on a day-to-day basis. So our risk is really not so much in the day-to-day operation, it's in the ability of someone to infiltrate those systems by stealing credentials. So that in that case, when we look at post-quantum encryption, we're going to look at defense in depth. So we put a bunch of different security methods in front of those systems so that someone simply decrypting a password is not going to be sufficient to be able to get into those systems. But we have a lot of, at Department of Energy, we not only have critical infrastructure, we have a great deal of scientific data. We not only do research into quantum, we run the fastest supercomputer in the world, and we consistently have 3 on the top 5 list. So we worry about quantum from a research standpoint as well, and as protecting all that data. So it's understanding we've got, working with NIST to implement those methods quickly, to understand the security of the methods that are selected. We know that we've selected encryption algorithms in the past that haven't worked out, so we very quickly want to be those folks who are on the forefront for testing those new methodologies and making sure that we then move the most critical systems we have in our most critical data behind quantum safe encryption solutions.
Now, Ali, when we talked about this before, you made the point that it's not going to be easy for big organizations like banks or other big corporates to make these changes, legacy systems. How on earth are they going to even start thinking about this in practical terms?
Right. So it's important to understand that it is a cybersecurity supply chain issue here, and it's there where you need to look at where you sit in this supply chain, and based on that, understand which pieces of the jigsaw are things that you need to take care of, and which parts you need to ask your suppliers about, and understand the timeline where you're going to get this to be post-quantum, where you're going to get that to be post-quantum. And it is more challenging to those who sit in the middle because they really rely on others. They have lots of dependencies on the semiconductor and on the OEMs, on the network security, etc., to provide them with the basic devices and protocols so that they can upgrade their own infrastructure. That's why you see that now most of the announcements recently about those who started migrating to post-quantum cryptography, which means that it is happening already. You hear that Google, Chrome in particular, Meta, Zoom, the iMessage from Apple, and Cloudflare, and you can see that these have a sort of like big control over what they own there, and they can start the transition themselves, and it's mostly software. That's why you see that they can actually do this. But for the financial sector, they heavily rely on hardware security modules and network switches, etc., to be post-quantum secure first before they can actually start upgrading everything. Now, they can start understanding which pieces they need to do themselves. They can start asking their suppliers about their timeline. When should they expect this piece, this device to be post-quantum? When should they expect their HSM to be post-quantum, right? And they need to work according to a timeline to have an idea where and when it's going to be post-quantum secure. How are they going to transform and transition everything they have to be post-quantum secure at a certain point in time? Because until you're fully post-quantum secure, you're not post-quantum secure, right? As long as you have some pieces that are not really post-quantum secure, as in like they still only use RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, then it's very difficult to claim any post-quantum security guarantees.
It surprises me actually that we use the word safe here, because when it comes to security issues, safe is not a word that a lot of people would use. I've written about hacks and security weaknesses all of my life as a tech journalist. And I was talking to an expert about this panel, and he said that there's already been a paper out that appears to show a quantum algorithm that could undermine the NIST standard. So, Lily, I'll take that, push that difficult question to you. Are we being a bit sort of arrogant here by using the word safe? And isn't it always the case that these things will be broken?
Yeah, that is a good question. The whole cryptography history is to say design an algorithm and then also break an algorithm, right? To the two sides of the cryptanalysis effort. And so, of course, right now, most of the selected algorithms are fully secure, and the analysis for almost like 7 years before we released these candidates. Some already broken. I should say some were immediately broken, and some are broken. And that's all the situation, and we consider it's a normal situation. So that's also say why we continue to have new algorithms in the first round, and also for the additional signatures, we call the unwrapped signatures, as Ali said, that we want to diversify the portfolio to make sure that those algorithms are based on different mathematics problems. So on the other hand, the community research gave us a certain confidence, because a lot of people analyze these algorithms and to try to break them, because at this moment, any news will be on these selected algorithms will be the front page, top line news. So that gave us certain confidence. So our confidence is based on the research state of the art. So, but no absolute secure, that's for sure. So that's my
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Understanding.
Thank you, Lily. Any other thoughts on that particular question? I'll
just say, any algorithm with enough computing power can eventually be broken. We all know that. The issue is we've got to have algorithms that number one, have the seeds are as random as possible, and that's a whole other debate that we don't want to get into today about randomness. But number two, that we just stay ahead of the computing power to the greatest extent possible, right? And that's simply the trick. So.
I would just add enough to the end of safe enough. Because there are some scenarios, we use broken cryptography today, if I'm honest, and if it's used in areas where it doesn't matter so much, just needs to be, it's like an insurance. Security is an insurance. The insurance needs to be commensurate with the threat you're protecting. So it's safe is not a single state. It depends on really what you're using cryptography for.
Mm-hmm. Now, the whole kind of premise of this debate we're having here is around timeframes. I can't possibly talk about timeframes without introducing Q-Day, a phrase that obviously journalists love to use. It's this nightmare scenario. Let's all kind of think about that in terms of what you see Q-Day as meaning and sort of when we will reach it. And for those who might not have heard the term in the audience, explain what it is. Ali, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, before I talk about the Q-Day, I would say that the event that is happening much sooner than that is the NIST Day, which is when NIST is going to publish the official standards. And I'd say that for us, those who are working in cryptography, we are, we mark this as the post-NIST and not post-quantum, right? Because once NIST has published the standards, it's a compliance issue. Assessing the risk is not a problem for everyone in every company to think, oh, when is it that we're going to have a quantum computer and when should I start worrying about? That's a much bigger problem. And, talking about probability and randomness and can be fooled by randomness and talking about, the black swan event. And you can talk about it philosophically as much as you can. But this phase we're past that phase. We did this analysis. Remember that we're talking about quantum computing, which was officially introduced in 1986. And we're talking about an algorithm that can break RSA that was introduced in 1995. So these are not new stories. We're not talking about an algorithm that was, developed yesterday that can break RSA. It was developed in 1995. We're approaching now 30 years after that algorithm was published. So the analysis has been done about the quantum threat and the quantum computing and whether or not it is a threat. For us in cryptography, we consider any non-negligible probability as a threat because it means that someone can actually extract your key. And therefore, it's a different risk assessment than what you see in the financial sector, in the stock market, etc. For us, the risk must be at a very, very, very low level for us to trust all those devices that we are using on a daily basis, all those communication protocols. And therefore, the Q-Day is a lovely philosophical question, right? But to us as cryptographers, enterprise, all those who are working in cryptography, developing those new cryptography solutions for hardware, for software, we're now talking about standards, being compliant, making sure that we can transition the whole infrastructure across different sectors in the cybersecurity supply chain to a quantum, to a state where it is quantum resilient. And what Michael said is that we want to be in a safer, safe enough or safer situation, right? Because as I started, perfect security does not exist in reality. Once you deploy it, it's not perfectly secure anymore.
Yeah. Anne, thoughts on Q-Day?
Yeah, so when you talk about Q-Day, I sort of think about the Terminator, and it's like, no, and to us, there's not one Q-Day in my mind. It's a progression of things. We're building quantum computers. Other people are building quantum computers. Nation states will have them. You'll be able to buy quantum cycles from Amazon. There's already, that sort of thing going on. So the capability there is growing, right? And the question is, at what point are there enough people with enough capability that you have to worry about your algorithms? And to your point, right, how much do people care about what you have, right? Do you have something that people are going to apply quantum computing to or not, right? So there are certain secrets that people don't care enough about to apply those resources, whereas others, many of the ones that we hold in our government and other governments, people care a lot and they'll apply those to them. So from our standpoint, there are, on the one hand, a lot of bigger, more immediate concerns when we talk about security. I got a lot of things I need to be worrying about that are more immediate, but I can't lose track of there's a day when somebody else is going to be able to crack that algorithm that I'm using now, and then I need to replace it. So I have to balance a whole bunch of security risks against that impending Q day there, where someone's going to be able to crack my algorithms, and I'm going to need to make sure that I can protect those things.
Michael?
So the experience from Y2K is it's actually a very bad term. It's something in the future that I have to worry about in the future. And I concur, absolutely, there will be phases of capability. So if you imagine now the very first nation state that has a moonshot project, and they're going to choose, okay, what key am I going to extract? Are they going to fish around in petabytes of harvested data, hoping that there's something valuable in there? No, they're going to be very, very careful and very, very focused on what they attack. And what people attack will depend on the capability and the cost of attack. So Q-Day per se is a bit of a challenging, I think, concept. We need to be prepared for these eras of capability and the sort of things that will be attacked in these different eras.
And finally, to Lily, we started with you and we're coming to the end of the discussion. What are your sort of thoughts, final thoughts on Q-Day and whether we should all be terrified of it or not?
Yeah, well, the Q day is a day, and right now we still do not have a confirmed date. Even so, I think the migration should start today. And so I would say we will consider today is the Q day. The reason I said so, because for some very sensitive data, they wanted to have like 5 years or 10 years secrecy. So people the attackers can catch the encrypted data today and decrypt that after Q day. So that's my understanding is that we need to start now to try to adopt the quantum resistant cryptography as soon as possible so that we will start to protect our data from quantum attacks today.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for questions or... It says 19 seconds. Oh. Okay, well, I'm sure you can find the members of the panel that are here and speak to them afterwards if you've got any thoughts. But thank you so much to everybody for joining me on stage. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.